So, Scott, you're the founder of Emerton Scott London, and you've just become officially the fastest funded Kickstarter in history. So, congrats on that. Uh,
Thank
how
you.
are you feeling? And did you expect everything to go so well so early on?
It's to be honest, it was a little bit of a surprise. So we didn't we definitely didn't expect to get funded in our first. I think it was like 3 minutes or something when we actually got funded. So it was a little bit crazy. We actually, as kind of an internal joke, we actually said, listen, like, should we give the backers something a little bit extra special if we get backed in like the first hour? And we were like, that's never going to happen, right? Like that's like just a pipe dream. And we did it in 3 minutes, so yeah, not too bad. So pleased, but also nervous because yeah, things are going to start ramping up now. We've got a little bit of momentum, so we'll see how things go.
And so, what do you think you did right? Now you can look on it slightly objectively. What do you think the key to the success of getting something like this so well done and so quick?
Yeah, it's a good question. Honestly, so I've been kind of part of Kickstarters and launches before, where I'm a branding consultant, so I work with companies all the time who do this sort of thing. And, one thing that always helps is authenticity. So just having something that the brand stands for, which is something someone can connect to. Because there's so many brands out there, Peter, that like just sell a product, right? And they don't really stand for anything. They just want to sell a product and sell as much product as possible. We don't really care about that. We honestly don't. We want to help as many people as possible with the donations to mental health charities that we are, doing, and ultimately we just want to reach as many people as possible. So I think that kind of really struck a chord with people. Um, a lot of the people that the crazy thing is, a lot of the people that we have, on our email list contacting us haven't even backed our project yet. So we're fully funded, but a lot of people still haven't backed yet. So we've still got all those to come. So yeah, that's exciting stuff.
And so, what happens when you do have a campaign that gets funded so quickly? Do do you keep the window open? Does it run another couple of weeks? I mean, how does it work when you're already over the finish line?
Yeah, yeah. So the way that Kickstarter works, at least to my knowledge, is that you have like a daily period. So we set our campaign up for 18 days, which basically gives us the rest of December to ultimately give people the opportunity to secure a necklace at like a ridiculously low price, like pretty much cost price, to be honest. The cost of the necklace. So we were originally selling the necklaces one by one. So someone would purchase a necklace, we would tell our workshop, they would hand make it within kind of 4 or 5 days. Then we would gift wrap it, put it in our special, Ruby packaging, our premium packaging, and then we would send it to them. And they were loving it, but they were paying like upwards of like £200 for a necklace, which is, it's like for what you're getting, it's still good value, But the fact of the matter is, by simply just securing more materials and working more efficiently, so having kind of like more pieces to make at one time, we can reduce the cost of the manufacturing and the cost of the materials significantly. So we're able to give people like a £200 necklace for like 40 quid, which is crazy. It's like this bloody you know nearly 100, like more than 100% less than what you would be paying. So it's nuts. It's absolutely crazy. You're paying like less than 50% of what you would be paying if you went to retail.
So, if I was a part of your team, Scott, I would just be saying, right, we've done the campaign now. We can all put our feet up for Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. I've definitely had a message or two from the guys, but yeah, we're just excited, man. We're excited. We've had a good start, so yeah, it's all good.
Good news. All right. So, I mean, there are tons of jewelry brands out there, though. I mean, what makes you guys, what makes Emerton Scott different, would you say?
Yeah, it's another good question. I think that I mean, again, Peter, the authenticity comes into it. The fact that we actually stand for something as opposed to just try to sell as much product as possible. There are so many brands out there that are just empty. You look at great brands out there like Patagonia, for example. I think the owner of Patagonia is literally just dedicating all of his money to charities to try and make the world a better place, and things like that speak volumes. And another thing which I think really helps us stand out is just to kind of take a step back and just give a little bit of insight in regards to why the product was even developed in the first place. I think it was like 2 Christmases ago. I was shopping with my mum for a present for my grandma, and she got her this bracelet. And I remember it was a, I'm not sure if I'm not going to say the actual jewelry company's name, but it's a very well known jewelry company. I don't want to get in any trouble. In the city centre, and we went into the store, and I think she paid around like 140 quid for this necklace. I'm sorry, for this bracelet. I apologize. And I was stunned when the person behind the counter handed my mum this £140 bracelet that looked pretty basic, to be honest, pretty meaningless, in a little cheap box that you could literally get from, Amazon for like 50p, and a cheap paper bag. And I just thought, I was like, to actually give somebody a gift that looks that bad, right? Like the bracelet, it's kind of irrelevant how the bracelet looks. It's how it's presented, right? Like when you get something and it really kind of feels good to kind of open something and everything looks really nice, and it looked terrible, Peter. It looked absolutely terrible. So I actually went on the company's website, right? True story. I went on the company's website that very night, and I was reading the actual reviews, and I would say maybe 20%, I'm not even kidding, about 20% of the reviews on the products were all about how bad the packaging was, how people were buying these as gifts, and they would feel embarrassed to actually give these as gifts with the packaging that was supplied. So I was like, why is nobody doing this? Like, I was looking at all the jewelry brands, that's affordable, and none of them were focusing on the packaging. So I was like, okay, that's one way that we can differentiate. That's one thing that can make us different, because nobody else is doing this. Nobody. Like, our packaging is like up there with like the likes of Cartier and Dior and all these incredible jewelry brands, these high end jewelry brands, and we're competing with those guys. Affordable jewelry brands, they don't care about packaging in the opening experience. And ultimately, I think that's going to be a massive, massive factor to people choosing Emerton Scott over other jewelry brands around our price point in the future.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing that I tell my girlfriend. That's why she does all the Christmas wrapping. So if you leave it
That's
to
it,
me,
that's
it's
it.
just going to get wrapped in the Daily Mail. Not
That's
that I
it.
buy that, maybe the Metro.
That's
But yeah,
that's that's crazy. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I
no,
was just
no,
gonna
it's
say that I always get my mum to help with like wrapping the actual, like when we get orders in. I always get my mum to actually do the ribbon because she's so much better at it than me. It takes me
yeah.
like 5 days almost to do the ribbon once. She's like an absolute pro at it from all the practice for me and my brothers. So yeah, she's definitely got a place in the team, to put it that way.
Bless. I mean, yeah, how do mums know all that? I mean, the ribbons that you get, it's just when you put it together, it just comes out like a horrible mess, if you mean. But
That's it. That's it. Me as
so,
well.
what is I noticed on the website, and it's kind of like the through line of the brand, the Stoicism, the philosophy that's behind it. What is that? Do you mind drilling down on that for us?
Yeah, I mean, Stoic philosophy is pretty well known. It's not something that's super new. It's ultimately an ancient Greek school of philosophy, and from the likes of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, and tons of other philosophers from that time period. Um, it was essentially, and it is essentially, a way for people, at least it's kind of like a crutch for people to use, almost like a religion to some extent. But it's not a religion where people can get through hardship and challenges and sort of testing times. It's about focusing on what you can control and not what you can't control, and just having a really healthy mindset when shit gets really hard. And I mean, in times like today, things have things are pretty tough. So, Stoicism is, if you look at Google Trends, for example, Stoicism has been trending for, the past 10, 20 years. It's getting more and more popular because people, especially with social media, with mental health, which is why we're actually connected to mental health and obviously trying to help in that arena. We're seeing Stoicism become more and more useful to, young men, women, to get through these hardships and challenges with a healthy mindset and come out at the other end a better place and a stronger person. So yeah, I mean, stoicism is like a tool to get through difficult times ultimately, at least in my opinion.
And do you like read Stoicism like a Christian would read a Bible? Is it something that you kind of have in your daily life, or quotes written around on the walls, framed and stuff like that?
Yeah, so that's actually interesting. I had a conversation with a guy called Jack who has like this Instagram page about Stoicism, and I asked him. I said, "Listen, would you like to help us grow this brand, and maybe I'll send you a necklace?" And he said, "Listen, like necklaces are not really my thing, but I'd love to just kind of have a chat with you, right? Like let's have a conversation." And I'm like, okay. So we had a conversation, and he actually said that for him personally, Stoicism is essentially something that someone can lean on when times get really hard. So when I said that it's kind of a religion, but it kind of isn't, it's there if you need it, but it's not something which you kind of, at least I don't read every single day. It's something that I use every day, but I don't actually study it every day. I actually started reading about it from my jujitsu coach. My jujitsu coach at the time, I said, "Do you have any books?" I hadn't even heard of Stoicism back then. It was like 4 or 5 years ago. And he said, oh, read this book called Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And I was like, okay, I'll read it. I didn't even know what Stoicism was or who Ryan Holiday was. And I read that book and I was like, like that makes so much sense. Like I was reading the pages and I was listening to it and I just went through an absolute craze, Peter, of like 2 or 3 months of just reading everything that you can get your hands on when it comes to Stoicism. All of Ryan Holiday's books, Meditations, Seneca's book, Epictetus's book, but everything that I could get my hands on. And I just kind of began to see, I'm not going to say it was cliche and like my life all changed and stuff, but I started to be able to handle my life a lot better. So, for example, something that usually would get me super emotional, I would be really composed and I'd be able to handle my emotions and stay pretty calm, therefore make better decisions. Therefore, all of these little tiny decisions would compound, and ultimately, I would end up in a far better place, in a far more fruitful place than I would had I reacted and let things kind of really tie me up and get me all, riled up. So I think that's where it comes into play for me. It's just a really great tool to just stay calm when you need it. You don't need it all the time because some days, hardship isn't really there for most people. So, but when shit does hit the fan, you really, really, have something there which is really solid, a solid set of principles that you can really rely on.
Yeah, I wish I had you around last Saturday when we lost the football, because I think
Yeah.
having someone like you to talk to him. I mean, I bought all the pork pies, so I was throwing a party, and I had a lot of international friends over with my
Yeah.
girlfriend, who's Russian, and so lots of Americans, lots of Russians, and they didn't really quite get what the big deal was, to be honest. But I got all the crisps, from Herefordshire, and the piccalilli and pickled eggs, everything that you pretty much have in your standard pub
Yeah.
when you're
Yeah.
18.
That's
And
it.
then so when your hopes and dreams get flushed and taken away at the last minute of the game, you kind of look around and go, well, what else is there apart from London Pride or Black Stout that can actually remedy this horrible gnawing feeling, hollowing
Uh,
feeling?
I was uh I was I was on the edge of my seat. I don't watch as much football as I used to, but like I've obviously been following England and stuff during the World Cup. I literally was on the edge of my seat when Rashford had that free kick right at the end, and
Mm.
I was like sitting there, and I was like, if this goes in, this guy is going to be like a national treasure, like a hero. And I was just like, France was so good. France was so good in the first half. Like I was literally like, this could be an absolute walkover. So when I was actually watching it with my mum. I was like, listen, like that was actually closer than I thought it was going to be. I just wish that Harry Kane had got that and just smashed that straight down the middle and just got that in. But yeah, I think everyone in the UK was practicing stoicism at that that day. To be honest, everyone was in the same boat
That's
there.
why
But
the
that was
Google
it.
trend went up. It's not 20 years, it's just the last 20 days. That's all that is.
That was it. That was it. Stoicism through the roof.
Um,
Crazy.
let's talk about the designs, please, Scott. The designs inspired by quotes as well by some of the philosophers that you've mentioned. And what's the process from taking a quote and then turning it into a piece of jewelry?
Yeah, so it's I mean we definitely didn't make our lives easy, to be honest with you, Peter. I mean if you go online, and this was something else that I kind of researched, for anyone who's ever looked up Stoic jewelry or Stoicism related jewelry, you go online and you see things with skulls on them, memento mori, amor fati, like all of these things which are just super direct and to be honest with you, Peter, like, everyone's entitled to their opinion, but they don't look very elegant. They're quite ugly, right? Like, who wants to walk down the street with a skull necklace on, right? So what I was kind of looking at was, right, okay, we've got these, memento mori, we've got all these like incredible lessons and philosophies from Stoicism. How can we communicate them or symbolize them in a design which is more abstract and more palatable, right? Like something which is more elegant. So the entire process is ultimately we look at the quote first. We look at what the actual quote is saying. What's the message behind it? Then we look at how we can communicate that with shape. So for example, we've got 8 pieces in our collection right now. So you get them in 14 karat gold or silver, and that's the Claria necklace, the one that I'm actually wearing right now. So for example, that necklace there, the Claria necklace is a symbol of clarity and fortitude. So if you look at the actual design close up, you can see that the inner circle is completely clear. It's completely clear, and that symbolizes the clarity of mind that that Marcus Aurelius, that Seneca, and Epictetus talk about. To stay composed and to stay centered, and then the sort of the jaggedy outer ring symbolizes fortitude and the fact that when shit gets really tough, right, you need to stay composed and you need to keep that clarity of mind to make sure that your judgment isn't clouded, to make sure that external events, things outside of your control, don't start to cloud your judgment and impact your performance as a person, right? Because that's when things really start, going downhill. So that's ultimately, I mean, we did 460 designs for the eight
Wow.
for the 8 pieces in our collection. 460. Most of them, obviously, we rejected. Some of them we continued on, but honestly, Peter, it was just a painstaking case of just really gritting our teeth and just saying, right, okay, does this represent respectfully the does it represent the quote that we're trying to communicate? Does it do it justice? And that was kind of the main driver behind it. The designer who we partnered with has worked with some incredible brands. Like when he was telling me, who he's worked with, I was like, why are you working with us? Like we're literally like a startup. Why are you working with us? But he just loves Stoicism. He just loves what he does. So we were, he's been a part of the team now for pretty much the entire process, and thankfully he stuck with me and didn't get sick of me and tell me to bugger off after after 25 revisions of the same design, which I'm sure was a little bit frustrating for him.
Yeah. And so you mentioned you also had like a database or like an audience that was built up before you did the crowdfunder. Do you give people the options of which designs you want to choose? Do you kind of do some soft marketing with the people that you've already got and you've reached out to that you engaged with before? And did they have any sway in your decisions?
Yeah, so yeah, that was actually that's a really good question. So, and it was really important that we actually started to listen to our customers like super early on. The reason being is, for example, the stones that are sort of the diamonds that are in some of the designs, we needed to know how many we'd need if we were going to do a Kickstarter. Like if we didn't have enough stones, then we couldn't make the majority of the pieces that are actually in the collection. So we reached out to all of our customers and said, listen, like, which pieces do you resonate most with? And we created this entire database on, which pieces were more popular, which pieces were less popular, and ultimately we arranged the materials and the entire quote that we needed from the supplier to make sure that we had enough for the most popular pieces, and then obviously go from there. So yeah, it was I mean, we're still learning, we're still understanding, who our target audience really is, how we can serve them better. That's the most important thing. We need to be super customer centric, but ultimately it's a learning process. We're still a super young company. We're just trying our best just to make an incredible product. And ultimately, and I've worked with over 1,000 brands over the last 8 years of being a branding consultant, working with startups all over the world. And the reality is, no matter how good your marketing is, no matter what else you do, product always wins. It's always about product. If your product's a winner, then that's the most important thing. So yeah, I'm glad that we focus a lot of our energy on that.
Awesome.